All right, so you wanted to dig deeper into the story of Manjiro. And wow, talk about a life that really makes you think truth is stranger than fiction.
It really is remarkable.
This is a 19th century Japanese fisherman,
Mm.
gets shipwrecked, rescued by, of all people, Americans, ends up living in the U.S.,
Right.
and then, and this is the kicker, returns to Japan right as it's about to go through this massive transformation.
Yeah.
And what we want to explore in this deep dive is how one person, seemingly ordinary at first glance, becomes this like crucial link between two worlds that are about to collide.
Yeah. And it's really striking how Manjiro's beginnings as this, fisherman really instilled in him this incredible resilience and resourcefulness.
Okay.
These are qualities that really become pivotal in his later life.
Yeah.
Just imagine the challenges he had to overcome on a daily basis as a fisherman, battling the elements, limited opportunities. I mean, talk about a crash course in survival.
He was a survivor in the truest sense of the word. I mean, shipwrecked.
Yeah.
Picked up by the John Howland, an American whaling ship, no less.
Right.
But here's where I find it so fascinating. He doesn't just say, thank you, grateful to be rescued, and that's it.
Right.
This man decides to go back to America with them. What do you think sparked that kind of, I don't know, sense of adventure, that leap of faith in him?
It's a question that really gets to the heart of who Manjiro was. We're talking about Japan in the 1840s, a time of really intense isolation.
Right.
Most Japanese people back then, they'd never even seen a foreigner,
Right.
let alone considered, traveling across the world with them.
Mhm.
But Manjiro, he had this incredible curiosity, this thirst for knowledge that, kind of trumped any fear he might have had.
Mm.
He was drawn to the unknown. He wanted to experience a world completely different from his own, and boy, did he ever.
Talk about a different world. Living in Massachusetts with Captain Whitfield, learning English, immersing himself in American culture. It's like he stepped into an alternate reality.
Absolutely.
How do you think all of that experience, I mean, how did it shape how he saw things, especially with everything that was about to go down back in Japan?
You have to imagine the cultural exchange, the osmosis that was taking place.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just about learning the language, but also understanding a totally different way of thinking. Keep in mind, this is decades before Japan opens up to the world. Manjiro was gaining this firsthand knowledge of Western thought, their technological advances, their entire culture. This experience becomes absolutely essential, almost prophetic even, as Japan faces its own encounter with the West.
Right.
Except this time, it's not on Manjiro's terms.
Because while he's busy adapting to life in America, Japan's still holding on tight to those isolationist policies.
Oh, yeah.
Completely oblivious to the massive wave of change that's headed straight for them. So picture this. 1853, Commodore Perry and his American warships just roll into Edo Bay, demanding trade.
I can only imagine.
Can you set the scene for us? What did that look like?
Well, imagine these huge steamships, just billowing black smoke. Technology so advanced it must have seemed like magic to the Japanese. I mean, they called them black dragons belching fire. And honestly, who can blame them? These ships were like nothing they had ever seen before. They were symbols of a powerful, technologically advanced nation, and they were demanding entry into this secluded world. Talk about a recipe for global tension.
Oh, yeah.
On the one hand, you have Manjiro embracing this new world, and on the other, you have Japan being basically shaken out of its isolation.
And that's when Manjiro's story takes this incredible turn. He's back in Japan, now a samurai, of all things.
Yeah.
And suddenly he's in this totally unique position to bridge this massive cultural divide.
He is, and it's important to remember, he's not just a fisherman anymore.
Yeah.
He's summoned by the shogun, the most powerful figure in Japan, to advise on how to handle this unprecedented situation.
Right, right.
And do you remember that quote of his, "There are hardly any weapons that will frighten the Americans out of their wits"?
Yeah, I remember that.
That wasn't just some casual observation.
Right.
That came directly from his experience living among Americans. He understood their pragmatism, their focus on technological progress. He knew that a show of force, it wouldn't work.
Yeah.
What was needed was diplomacy, which, let's face it, was a pretty foreign concept in Japan at the time.
Absolutely. And, thanks to Manjiro pushing for that diplomatic approach, they end up signing the Treaty of Peace and Amity in 1854.
Right.
I mean, after centuries of isolation, Japan finally opens up to the rest of the world.
It's amazing.
Makes you wonder, though, what if Manjiro hadn't been there?
Yeah.
Would Japan have just, resisted modernization, kicking and screaming the whole way?
It's a fascinating what if, isn't it? Would they have clung even tighter to this isolation, potentially leading to conflict? I mean, Manjiro's ability to understand both cultures so well, it made him the ultimate bridge builder at a time when, the whole world was on the verge of these monumental changes.
It is true.
But even though he played this critical role in averting, potential disaster, his journey takes another kind of unexpected turn.
It's true.
Because here he is, hailed as a hero for bridging this cultural gap.
Right.
But at the same time, he's viewed with suspicion for that very same reason.
Yeah, because not everyone was exactly thrilled about opening up to the West, were they?
That's right.
You have that fear of foreign influence, the anxiety that comes with change. It can lead to some, let's just say, unpredictable reactions.
It certainly can. And for some, Manjiro, this former castaway who had embraced American culture so openly, he became the embodiment of all those anxieties.
Right, right.
I mean, think about it. His fluency in English, his westernized mannerisms.
Oh, yeah.
They were seen as suspicious.
Right.
He even needed protection, a bodyguard, to move safely in his own country.
Wow.
Talk about the double-edged sword of cultural exchange.
Definitely. It's a reminder that progress and tradition, they don't always see eye to eye.
No, they don't.
And it's often those caught in the middle who face the most scrutiny. But what I find really remarkable is that Manjiro never seemed to back down from a challenge.
He didn't. He never did.
And instead of letting it get him down, he channeled those unique experiences into real, tangible contributions for Japan.
He did. And he never rested on his laurels, did he? I mean, think about it. He designed modern ships, incorporating these Western shipbuilding techniques with, traditional Japanese craftsmanship.
Right.
He translates the new American practical navigator, which was a text essential for modern navigation, making it accessible to his own people.
Right.
And he even goes on to write the first English textbook specifically for Japanese students.
Wow.
It's like he was laying the groundwork for Japan's modernization, step by careful step.
He absolutely was. And you know what? There's this anecdote that I just love.
Oh, yeah.
Manjiro's on this diplomatic mission to the U.S., right? And a huge storm hits.
Oh, no.
The ship's captain, he's incapacitated, can't do his job. And who do you think steps up to take command using all those seafaring skills to navigate those treacherous waters?
Yeah.
Manjiro, the fisherman, turned cultural ambassador.
Wow.
How about that?
It's an incredible image, isn't it? The
Yeah.
very skills he honed as a young man, facing the raw power of the sea, they become absolutely essential on this international stage.
Yeah.
And what it really highlights is that this isn't just about politics.
Right.
This is about pure competence, born from firsthand experience.
It really makes you realize that every experience we go through, even the scary ones, even the challenging ones, they shape us in ways we might not even fully grasp until much, much later.
It's so true.
But even with all that said, this story isn't just about international relations or clashing cultures. It's about the power of human connection, something that goes beyond borders and ideologies, don't you think?
You said it. I mean, even decades after his time in America, after dealing with all those cultural differences, the political turmoil, Manjiro stayed friends with Captain Whitfield.
Really?
Oh, yeah. He even went back to visit him in the U.S. It really speaks to the enduring power of genuine connection,
Yeah.
like a beacon of hope in a world that often feels defined by division.
It does. It's really like something you'd see in a movie.
It is.
You'd think with all the time that passed, the distance, the cultural barriers,
Right.
You'd think it would be impossible to maintain a bond like that.
Yeah.
But for Manjiro and Captain Whitfield, it seems like their connection just kept getting stronger.
It's really amazing. And, their story doesn't just end there.
It doesn't.
It could have been this really heartwarming historical footnote,
Yeah.
but it goes even further because their friendship, it went beyond just the two of them.
Really?
It actually transcended generations.
Get out.
To this day, their descendants still honor the connection that was made all those years ago.
Wait, are you serious? You're telling me their families still keep in touch after all this time?
It's true. And it gets even better because it's not just, occasional letters or anything like that.
What is it then?
Imagine this. The descendants of Manjiro, the Japanese fisherman, and Captain Whitfield, the American whaler, they meet, not by chance, but as part of this event called the Japan-America Grassroots Summit.
Wow.
And this event, it's specifically designed to promote understanding and friendship between, Japan and America.
Okay.
So it's this direct line from the bond that was formed all those years ago,
Mm-hmm.
like a Their friendship planted a seed that's still growing generations later.
That's unbelievable. I mean, that's more than just a feel-good story.
It really is.
It speaks to how powerful their connection really was, that it wasn't just some fleeting moment.
No, not at all.
But it doesn't end there, does it? There's that whole sister cities thing too, right?
Oh, absolutely. And that's another remarkable chapter in this whole saga.
Yeah.
We're talking about Fairhaven, Massachusetts, where Manjiro spent his time in America, and Toshimizu, Japan, near his birthplace.
Right, right.
These two cities, separated by, thousands of miles and cultural differences, they're now linked forever as like these tangible symbols of Manjiro's legacy.
That's incredible.
They have these cultural exchanges, student trips, all sorts of programs designed to bridge the gap between the two cultures.
Yeah, love it.
It shows that even with political tensions, historical baggage, human connection, it can still thrive.
I knew coming into this deep dive that Manjiro's story was amazing,
As you should.
but I had no idea about the depth of these connections, how much of an impact his life had. And it wasn't just for him, it was for generations to come.
Right.
It reminds us that history isn't just dates and treaties and all that dry stuff.
Yeah.
It's about the choices people make, the relationships they forge,
Oh, no,
and how those things can echo through time. What an important thing to remember.
It truly is. And it makes you wonder, how many other Manjiros are out there? How many untold stories are there just waiting to be discovered? Stories about people connecting across cultures. Maybe Manjiro's journey can remind us to look beyond the obvious, to see the power of individual stories,
Yeah.
and to remember that even one seemingly ordinary person can change the world.
It's a legacy worth thinking about, that's for sure. Thanks for joining me on this incredible deep dive into the life of Manjiro, the fisherman who bridged two worlds. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep discovering those hidden connections that make history come alive.